Hey guys, this is Kaizen here, and today's episode is going to be an introduction to the Tinker's Construct mod. Okay guys, so here we are, we're near our little house in the village there, and I've got a bit of a setup here to make the whole video today a little bit more efficient, so I think it will be quite a long video. So I'm going to jump right into it. I'm just going to get straight into the whole Tinker's thing. So the first thing that you want to make up is a load of these blank patterns. So this is the recipe right here, pretty cheap, and you'll see I've already made up a stack now in total, just did that beforehand. Now, if you've got your bonsai trees that I showed you in the last episode, getting the wood for this should not be difficult, especially in this mod pack, as you've got the whole tree fella mod thing in there. Now, you're going to use these for a whole number of things. But what you want to do is grab yourself a book, and then use your first one with a book to make this, Materials and You, which if we open it up, you'll see this is by Skylar. This is the Tinker's book, and it gives you everything from an introduction right up to all the different materials, modifiers, tools, and smeltery items. So we're going to refer back to this at different times. But one thing I want to do is show you, for example, if we go to tool materials here, you can have a look here at all different types of tool materials that you can use. And if we go back to this page, so you see here, for example, we can click on, say, iron. And if we do, it gives us all the statistics here for iron. And if you click on this arrow here, it will take you back to the page you were just at. So then you might want to say, okay, that was iron. Let's have a look at, say, bone and see how bone does. And bone is over here. And you can also scroll through the pages like this. It gives you all of that information. If you click this arrow up here, it will take you back to the start of the book. So we will refer to that throughout, but Tinker's is such a huge mod that I can't go through all of it. So the best thing you guys can do is to make up this book, and if you get stuck, then you want to use that as your guide. So the next thing to do is to make up loads and loads and loads of grout. Now this is the recipe I like to use, so a bit of gravel, sand and clay. So you're going to need to get a lot of this stuff, but with vein miner it's not too bad. Just to show you, there is a second recipe for grout as well, if we get that up in JEI. You can also make it with clay balls and in this way. So that's how you make that up. Once you've made that, you want to get that smelting down. So while we come over here and do some of the other stuff, you can have all your grout smelting. Of course, at the moment, I'm only smelting 8, but you will be smelting stacks and stacks and stacks of this stuff, because what you want are these things, seared bricks. And we'll come on to why we want those in just a sec. I'm going to chuck them over here. We're jumping ahead a little bit. You can see I've made up a lot, and I'll come on to why that is in just a moment. So the next thing to be looking at is we're going to need to make up all of these things, and I've got here a little convenient way of showing you the recipes for all these different things. So in here, for example, we have this recipe here. So a plank and a blank pattern gives you a stencil table, a chest and blank pattern gives you a pattern chest, a oak wood or any type of wood and a blank pattern will give you a part builder, and finally a crafting station. This is a Tinker's crafting station, and a blank pattern will give you a tool station. Now, one thing to note here is if we make up a normal crafting bench and we put that into a crafting grid, that is how you get the Tinker's crafting station, which is used throughout Tinker's, of course, but also has a useful property of when you put things inside it, they will just stay there. So it will hold that for you, which is useful when I'm showing you guys recipes, but you'll also find it useful throughout the gameplay. Okay, so in here I've got a load of different materials stored up. I'm going to grab some of these out right now, including the redstone actually, and let's organize those in our inventory a little bit. And I'll show you why we're getting all this stuff together in just a second. So what we're going to do is have a look here at building our first Tinker's tool. So the way you really want to go about this is to actually start with the tool station and look at the range of tools you have here and what you want to make up. So you've got, pretty much your standard tools, your pickaxe, your shovel, your axe. They've got different names. Like this is called a hatchet, for example, but it's an axe. You'll see this mattock. This is quite useful to use. It's a farming tool. But it's also good for, as it says here, wood, dirt, and plants. So it's kind of like 3 tools in one. So it's a bit of a hoe, a shovel, and an axe. So it's quite useful. But we're going to start by just making up a pickaxe. And I'll show you guys here how we do that. So it shows you, when you click on the tool in the tool station, what the configuration of items is that you need. So this may not make much sense for a second, but if we go over to our stencil table and we chuck in our blank patterns, you'll see we've got this grid here. Now, if I click on this, we can make up a pickaxe head, I should say, and you want to put that straight into your pattern chest. We'll then make up one of these, which is a binding pattern, put that into the pattern chest, and finally a tool rod. Now, be a little bit careful because, for example, the tool rod looks kind of similar to the tough tool rod. The binding looks very similar to the tough binding, so you want to make sure you're getting the right one for the tool that you need. You can, if you want, just make all of these up, but I just kind of make them as I go. So the next thing we can do is go into our pattern chest and we'll see there's all of our patterns, which we're going to use in the part builder, which syncs up automatically with the pattern chest if you place it next to it. However, we can actually go one better than that. If we place a crafting bench, a Tinker's crafting bench, on either end of these 4 sort of stations that we use in Tinker's, when I now right click on any of these tabs appear at the top and allow us to quickly go through the entire sort of automated section here. So it's a very useful thing to have. So we go into the part builder here, and what we want to do is have a look at what parts we want to use for our pickaxe. So this is where we can actually use the book to look at different materials. So I'm going to look at, say, copper, and it shows you here what you get if you use it for all different parts of the tool. Okay, now it also shows you the durability, mining level of iron, the mining speed and attack and things like that. But it also shows you this. If you hover over this, you gain additional XP whenever you mine if part of your tool has a copper part. So I like to make a copper part in with my tools. So you can see here, if I went to the part builder and wanted to make this out of copper, nothing actually happens. Whereas if I wanted to make it out of stone, things do happen. So if you want to use some of the better materials that you can use, so if we want to use things like, you know, copper and iron and that sort of thing, what we need to do is get into making a smeltery. So although you could make a tool, I could make one out of, like, you know, wood and stone right now. They're not very good. And really, I think you want to wait until the stage when you can build a smeltery. And at that stage, that's when you can use those better materials. So we're going to have a look at that now. So this is what these bricks here were for. Now, if we open this crafting bench, as it's next to the crate, you'll see everything is here. And we can start making a few things up. So some important recipes are this one here, because this gives you your smeltery controller, which is essential for any smeltery. Now, some other important recipes. First of all, just 4 together will give you just your basic seared brick, and you're going to need a lot of those. So let's just make up a good few of those right away. And we're going to make a lot more than that, but they're useful for now. You can also use this recipe here. Hold on, I botched that up a little bit, to make your smelter drains. Now, again, you're going to need a lot of these. And then you can make things like your basins, like this, and your tables, like this. Now, is it turning nighttime? It is. Okay, I don't want any mobs here, because they'll come and blow up all my nice Tinker setup, so I'm going to have a quick sleep. And I'm going to show you how to make, obviously, the full smeltery setup. But I just wanted to give you a few of the recipes for the different smeltery components before we start. Because one of the nice things about Tinkers is it's very customizable, and it really comes down to what you want. You know, all of these different materials for the tools that you use, they all do different things. So it depends on what your goal is throughout the game as to which tools are best for you. There's no real right or wrong answer. It's just personal choice. So we made our basin, we made our drain. Now, for each drain, you're going to need at least 1 faucet. Now, I'll show you why I said at least 1 in just a second. But for now, what I want to do is get a good few of these bricks together, and then I can actually show you some more advanced things once we get into it. So we've got loads of bricks now, and we're going to look at how we actually build the smeltery. Now, the minimum requirement is to do a 3x3, like this. So you could use this as your base. I personally like to use a 5x5. Now, the bigger you build the smeltery, the more items it will be able to hold. So that's why I like it to be a bit bigger. Also, I find that getting the sand and gravel and stuff required to make all this stuff is not difficult. So for that reason, I go the extra mile. So the next step is to build up the walls. And what you want to think about is where the front of your smeltery is going to be. So mine's probably going to be here. So what I like to do now, and we'll get rid of some of this stuff out of our inventory, is place my smeltery controller right there like that. So it's kind of central because we're going to be using that throughout the whole process. So these bricks that I'm placing down here are just temporary, just to hold things in place. We're going to do some swapping out and stuff in just a second. But what I want to do, I didn't need to build that corner one. So you don't need to build in the corners, just these sort of like this. Is just get the basic thing up and running. However, we are unfortunately missing a couple of essential ingredients, and I'll show you what those are. So you'll see right now, this here is not animated. Now, when you build the smeltery correctly, this will show a little fire animation, and that's how you know you've done it. I'll show you that in a second. But you'll notice I had some glass in here. So the reason for that is we can do a few things. If we do one of these, we get a seared window. Now, that's kind of cool, because what it'll do is kind of as you'd expect, really. It can be formed as part of the multi-structure, but it allows you a window to see into your smeltery, which is more than anything just a nice visual effect. There's no real productive thing about being able to see into smeltery, but it does look kind of cool. But the other thing that we're able to do is to make up a tank. So I want to have a look here. If I search in JI for smeltery, all of the stuff comes up. So if you guys are struggling at all, you really just want to search Smeltery and everything will come up. And what we need is one of these things, a Seared Tank. We're going to make a few of those actually, so probably make, say, 3 of those will be enough. And what I'm going to do is I will put... Oh, now this has actually started to work, even though it's not being powered. So I guess that's... I'm not sure why that actually started up, because it doesn't have any power yet. But we're going to place these 3 up here, and eventually they will have power in them. And then we can start filling in blocks around the top of this. And you can build this as high as you like. And the higher you build it, the more items it will be able to hold inside it. So you can build it to whatever sort of height that you need. Okay, so we can get rid of these blocks that are around the outside here as well, and create a bit of space that way, because we're going to need a bit of space around these in a second. So the next thing is the Smelter Drain. Now the drain is how you get fluid, well it says on there when you hover over it, how you get things in and out of the smeltery. So it's a very important part, and we're going to need a lot of them. So because of that, really we want to make up a ton more of these things. Now I'm not making up any sort of exact numbers, as you'll have noticed, so you guys, you can make up more or less of these depending on what you require. Now the cool thing about these drains is if we put one on the corner here, you'll see here this hole represents a place that you can input or output from the drain. If you want to output from the drain, you are going to need faucets, which is why I said you may need 1 up to 2 per drain, because it depends obviously on how many you have and where you want them to go. So what we're going to do is we're going to put one on the corner here like this, and ideally you want them to be pretty accessible. We need to make up some more faucets as well. You want them to be pretty accessible because you're going to be doing a lot with them throughout your using of tinkers. So I like to put them along the front here like this. So I'm going to get rid of a few of these blocks. And it doesn't matter that the smelter is sort of broken when you do that. It'll soon work itself out. So you see on these, we can only have one place where the faucet can go. But we're going to use these to get our materials out and to make our tools and things as we go through. So underneath these is where you want to put certain things. So you want to put the basin underneath here, and things will pour out into there. And also your tables can go underneath them as well. So then it will pour out onto the tables. And I'll come on to why we need those in just a second. So for now, what I want to do is make up, say, 1, 2, 3 more of these. And about 3 more of these, I think. Again, I'm not counting these exactly. I'm just kind of doing this as we go. So I'll put a basin in there as well. And then 1, 2, 3. And another couple of basins here. Now, of course, you could have drains going all the way around the outside if you like. I find that this many is probably going to be enough most of the time. So let's go back here now, make up whatever faucets we need. I can't remember exactly how many more we needed, but this seems about right. So let's get rid of those and put these on where we need them. So we need 1 in here. Now, incidentally, you cannot put 1 here because there's 1 there. So that kind of blocks that. And then we need 1 there. Oh, that's all we need. We only need a couple. So generally what I'd do is once my smeltery is set up the way I want it to be, any bricks I had left over, I would turn into the blocks of bricks, just by putting 4 here like this, and then build it up as tall as I possibly can, because that will then allow me to put as many items in as I can. However, there is something that we're going to need to do here, and that is we need to make up a portable tank. So I'll show you guys that. So this one right here, portable tank, from Thermal Expansion. So it is from a different mod pack, but it works very well with what we're going to do here with Tinkers. So this is the recipe. Redstone servo, pretty simple to make. Now if I want to go back to the recipe I was just on, I just hit backspace, and it will take me back to that. 3 glass and a copper, which I believe, let's get some of this out of the way, I have all this stuff in my backpack, I think. Redstone, copper, okay. Let's see if we can make this up. Wait, I need to open that one first, make up 1 of these, and then make up 1 of these. Okay, that's great. The other thing that we're going to want to do is we can search for the Crescent Hammer. Now, that is also from Thermal. And we want to make up 1 of these. So let's go back in here, and what are we missing? A bit of tin, which I do have tin. I guess I don't have it on me. Do I have it in my backpack? Yes, I do. Because we're going to need that in just a second. So the next thing to do is, do I have a bucket on me? I do. Open up your way map, so you press J to do that. Find a pool of lava. Now, this may look like a pool of lava, but you want to be careful because it's sort of spread out a bit. It's near a mountain, so it's probably a lava pool. And in this case, I know this is actually a lava pool. Whereas this one over here, probably this is actually a lava pool. So we're going to head over to this lava pool right now, and I'll show you what you're going to do there and how you're going to get that lava to power your smeltery. Okay, so here we are. We're at this lovely pool of lava. So what you want to do now is just set your portable tank down somewhere near it, and then use your bucket to keep filling up this tank. So you see that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8's about halfway. I'm pretty sure it's 16 buckets. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. Is that going to keep going? It is. Okay. So it's 17, 18, 19, maybe 20 buckets? 20 to fill it up. That is pretty awesome. So now you get your Crescent Hammer, and if you shift right click, you will be able to pick it up just like that, and that is all stored in there. Now of course you can automate lava production and collection, but for early game you're not going to be doing that, so this is the best way to do it, to get loads of lava over to your Tinker Smeltery. Of course you could also try to find lava in a cave if you are doing a lot of mining, but you'll often find when you're doing a bit of exploring to find your base that you will find some sort of surface lava pool, which is pretty easy. You see how close mine was to this village right here. So pretty simple way to get yourself started. So let's make the most of our slime sling and go back over here. And then we can actually start powering our smeltery. So the way we're going to do this is to jump up on top of these things, our seared tanks, and hold shift so we can place that up there. Now you notice at first nothing happens. That's why you want the Crescent Hammer. You give it a right click with the Crescent Hammer and it will now auto input into there. So this tank is now completely full, and that one still has a good amount left. So as we use the lava, it will get mixed up. Then you can see here, this is now being fueled by lava, and it is pretty much ready to use. So what we want to do is go and get some sleep. But the thing about the Smeltery to note is it is an early game way of ore doubling. So basically, if you put in 1 iron, you'll get the ability to pour out up to 2 ingots. So here we go. I've got some iron ore on me, and I'll show you guys that right away. Now, different items take different amount of times to smelt in here. So for an iron, we're going to chuck all of that in. You'll see its progress here. As this bar increases, it's going through. Now, once it's completely smelted, it will appear in here, and that's when you get to be able to do things with it. Okay, so all of our iron has now smelted, and you'll see if we hover over here, it shows us we have 5 blocks and 1 ingot's worth, which is 46 total iron ingots. We put in 23, so it has indeed doubled. And if we go around here, there's the little window. So kind of looks cool, but doesn't really have any sort of functional use. It just looks kind of cool, which is fine. So now that we have our iron in there, we may want to use it for something, and indeed we do. Now what I'm actually going to do is put in, say, 8 copper ingots, because I know I'm going to need those. Just to note, if you put in a copper ingot, you will not get 2 back. You'll only get 1. It's only the ore that doubles. The other thing we can put in is a little bit of gold for now. But also what we actually want to put in is a fair bit of clay. So put in maybe a half stack of clay, so you can actually smelt that down. And that's obviously, when that goes in there, that's just going to be clay. But I'll go into why it is exactly that we're doing this in a second. So there we go, the copper is sat, the 8 ingots we put in is still there, it sits there on top of the iron, and then the gold is going to sit on top of that. Now you do want to be careful, because certain things can alloy together, and I found this is really just about experience, because you know, certain things can, when you mix 2 metals you get a 3rd metal, for example. I'm trying to see if there's going to be anything here that's going to really show that. Bronze is a good example. Alright, bronze. So if we search in JEI for bronze, a bronze ingot, how do we get that? So you can, let's see here, okay, finally found what I was looking for. So if we go to, say, the redstone here, we go to the bronze blend to get that, what it is pulverized tin and pulverized copper. So if you put tin and copper in here, you'd get bronze. So yeah, you do want to be a little bit careful with that. If you're not sure, maybe just put in a little bit and see if it starts to mix or not. So now we've got a good amount of stuff in here, we can actually go into making our first tool. So at this point, we actually want to come back over here to the part builder. And we're just going to use cobblestone to make up a binding, a tool rod, and a pickaxe head. And what we're going to do is we need to make casts for each of these. So I'm going to place them by right-clicking down here onto the tables. I'm then going to make clay the first thing to come out. And what I do is I left-click on the clay, and it goes right down there to the bottom. So whatever's at the bottom is going to come out. If you right-click on the faucet, you'll see it starts to pour here. And when it's done, it stops pouring, and you get this animation that goes up in percentage. Okay, now these clay casts are great, but they're only good for 1 use. So, what do I mean by that? Well, let's see, if we get copper as the next thing out, I want a copper binding to go in there. So when that pours, this will go down, and as it cools, the cast goes, and we just get the binding. For our pickaxe head, I'm going to make that out of iron. So again, we pour that in, and we'll be good with that. Now, as far as the actual tool rod goes, well, I'm not sure myself, so we're actually going to have a little look at this and see what we want to use. So if we used copper for the handle, you'll see there it does add a modifier and a durability of 30. Okay, if we were to use iron, durability of 60 and 0.85 modifiers. But maybe there's something even better we could use. So if we looked at, say, stone, well, that's not going to help at all. If we looked at, like, lead, I have lead. Again, it's not going to help, and it's got these negative attributes. So these attributes are not always positive. Sometimes they're negative. You want to be careful about that. What else could we potentially look at? I mean, bronze, potentially. Last longer. That doesn't sound great. So I think all things considered, iron's going to be just fine for our early game pickaxe here. So we make this up. And again, we wait for that to kind of cool, pick that up. And at this stage, we now have, let me pick that up, our 3 parts here. So if we go back to the tool station, click on our pickaxe, put in these parts, there we go. We can now make up this iron pickaxe. Over here, it tells us what we're going to get. So durability of 318, mine up to the level of diamond with a speed of 6, attack of 5, not that we'll really need it for that, and up to 3 modifiers. Now, the modifiers is where it gets kind of interesting. So if we open up, let's see our Tinker's book here, and we go right back to the beginning, and we look at modifiers, these are the things you can do. So if you want your pickaxe, say, to be quicker, then you look at haste, and you'll see here, redstone is the way that you go about doing that. Now, if I were to go into my tool station, place the pickaxe and the redstone, you'll see there, if I just put in 1, you get there haste 1 out of 50, okay? So it says there, it makes it faster, pretty simple. If we put in all of that, and we modify it that way, we get this redstone back, and it goes all the way up to 50 out of 50. And then if we put more redstone in, we can start it on to the next level of 100, at which point it will get even faster again. Now, if I just get rid of that redstone for a second and show you guys this, and then we take our pickaxe, we go over and we do some mining. So let's say we mine with vein mine this coal right here, and a bit of cobblestone like this. It's pretty quick, right? Not too bad for an early game tool. And of course, with Tinkers, you can keep modifying it as you go. Now, if I put it back in, you'll see the durability goes down. But a mining speed of 12.5 is not bad at all for a little bit of redstone. So we've now got 2 more modifiers that we can add as we go through. So you might want to wait until you got some lapis, for example, and add luck to it. So that was the one showed right there. But there's a whole different load of modifiers you can have. Mending Moss is pretty cool. Mending Moss is shown here. If we actually look at that in JEI, what Mending Moss does is basically like having the mending enchantment on your tool. So gradually repairs tools using experience. Now, what I'm not sure of is how we actually... Oh, created by using a ball of moss on a bookshelf. So I think ball of moss, let's have a look at this. If we right-click a bookshelf with this, I believe that's how you do that. Unfortunately, I don't have this stuff to try it out just yet, but just kind of showing you guys that. So that's kind of a very sort of brief description of Tinkers and how this mod works. I will be using it throughout the pack, and it's something that I'll come back to, and each time I come back to it, I will try to show you guys some little tips and tricks. One thing I did want to mention actually is that you can use other types of cast. So you can use, get here, aluminum brass. Now this here, you can alloy with aluminum and copper, and that'll give you some brass. So you can use that to make the casts that we made out of clay, and that will last forever, as will gold casts. So you can use those. I think it's 2 ingots per 1 for gold. So they will last continuously. Every time you make them, you'll keep hold of the cast. So if you do need some more than once, then you want to look at that route. But yeah, so that's pretty much all I wanted to do today. I think it was the idea of today's episode was as an introduction to Tinkers, rather than showing you everything you need to know, because it's already going to be quite a long episode. If you do have any questions, though, please leave them down in the comments, and I will cover Tinkers more and more throughout as we go through the pack. But for this episode, guys, that's about it. So if you did enjoy it, please do leave a like and consider subscribing. It is greatly appreciated. But for now, that's all. So as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.